What is going on, everyone? And in this video I'll be giving you my UFC 273 main card predictions for the upcoming event taking place this Saturday, April 9th, 2022 at the VyStar Veterans Memorial Arena in Jacksonville, Florida. I'll be going to this event, so it's going to be pretty good. I wish it was a little bit better of a card, but I do think the main and co-main event, well, I am probably just saying this because I hope that I'm not going there and spending money to have a really bad card. I think the first two fights on the main card, I think we had Kelvin Gastelum in there before. I would have liked that. But either way, I mean, we get to see Gilbert Burns versus Khamzat Chimaev and then two title fights. So hopefully, if, you know, the first fight, the Vince Pichel versus Mark Madsen and Mackenzie Dern versus Tisha Torres fight aren't the best in the world, maybe the next three will be. And I do think there's obviously some good cards on the preliminary card, as well as even the early preliminary card. You know, Anthony Hernandez, Josh Friend, Alexio Oleinik is going to be on the card. Julio Arce. That's a pretty good fight. We'll see. Mickey Gall, Aspen Ladd, Jairzinho Rosenstrike taking on Marcin Tybura. We'll have to see. I think it could be one of the cards that's not the strongest pay-per-view, but then the two main events and maybe some of the fights on the main card can make up for it. So we'll have to see, but I'm obviously hoping for the best because I am going to this event. But either way, we're coming off a pretty... yeah, I would say pretty not the best card, making picks on it at least 5 and 7 on UFC Columbus. Before that, obviously having the 9 and 3 on UFC London, but at least Blades was able to get his victory in for the UFC Columbus one. Kai Kara France was able to get that victory. Didn't no, I didn't pick him as well, I believe so. Didn't take Brian Barberena. He was won that fight by a split decision. I thought Askarov was going to do a little bit more, but unfortunately not. Kai Kara France looked good. And then Matt Brown, I guess that fight could have gone either way, really. But Brown's really hanged in there and was able to get a lot done. So for me, Neil Magny was able to get the victory too, and I didn't take Mark Jacasey. So that was unfortunate, but... you know, we take it and we move on into the next one. So I'm really looking forward to this card. And so let's go ahead and talk about the first fight on the main card. So in the first fight on the main card, we have Vince from Hell Pichel taking on Mark the Olympian Madsen. And for this fight, I think it really comes down to what Pichel is able to do as far as defending the takedowns. Because we know, obviously coming to a guy like Mark Madsen, coming off with that, with the Olympic wrestling, we kind of know what he's, obviously his strength is in. And we also know what he's probably going to do when things get a little bit weird on the feet. Madsen striking, probably improving every fight, but it's probably going to be his weakness. Not really putting together too many good combinations, probably like a one-shotter here and there. I guess he has good pressure, though. He's one of these guys where, he's not just diving in for takedowns, right? So that's good to see. He's obviously working on his striking. He's not like a Ben Askren where he's just diving in for takedowns every time. But I do think, obviously, the wrestling's going to be the good thing. And yeah, I guess he has a good jab. He presses forward. He has good cardio. So I'm not really worried about him tiring out or anything like that. I'm just worried about him getting into like a wild exchange, a war with Vince Pichel. And then Pichel's able to kind of just start teeing off on him and getting a little bit crazy. Because, from Hell, I mean, we know this guy. He comes in with heavy leg kicks, good front kick. He keeps his hands really low. He's kind of unorthodox, right? He's one of these guys where it's like... you don't really know if he's going to go rushing in and create a war, get into that brawl, or if he's going to kind of try to pick you apart a little bit. But he has very low hands, good feints. And when you take him down, he definitely tries to get back up. He's not one of these guys that wants to really settle for that position or just lay on his back or anything. Like, he's really going to try his best to get up. And, against a guy like Mark Madsen, he's going to really have to try to get up. If he does get taken down here. I think Pichel's best way to winning this fight is going to be to creating that brawl, creating that war, getting in Mark Madsen's face. If he gets taken down, which I think he will, he's going to have to get back up and go back to just creating chaos, getting in his face, creating that hell, and then make Madsen just be diving in for takedowns. But that being said, I think Madsen's striking is probably going to be getting better. He's not one of these guys where he's just absolutely horrible on the feet and all he has is wrestling, so that's good to see. And I think if he can keep improving his striking, fight a little bit smarter, not brawl with Vince Pichel, not get into the craziness, right? Not start throwing down with him. Get that jab going, press with the wrestling. and can just try to drown him out with the wrestling, I think he'd be able to win this fight. Obviously, Pichel can create a war, and we'll have to see what he does. But I do think Madsen will be able to pull off. And Pichel's tough, so I don't really see Madsen getting a finish here. But I do see a pretty tough battle, so I'm gonna go Mark Madsen on this one. I just think his wrestling, when things get a little bit weird, I think his wrestling might be the one to go with, and I think he can back it up with the cardio and keep going for it. So I'm gonna go Mark Madsen to defeat Vince from Hell Pichel by a decision. And then move on into the second fight on the main card. We have a women's strawweight bout. Mackenzie Dern, 11-2, and she'll be taking on Tisha, the Tiny Tornado Torres, 13-5. Both fighters are coming off. No, actually not both fighters. Tisha Torres is coming off a win, and then Dern is not coming off a win. She's coming off a loss against Marina Rodriguez via unanimous decision, and then Torres is coming off a W over Angela Hill via unanimous decision. For Mackenzie Dern, her strength is just going to be the grappling and just being able to control on the floor. She's very determined for that takedown too, right? So once she goes for it, she's really going to try to get it. She's not going to just, let it go. She's really going to try to climb over her opponents, control them on the ground, put them in an advantageous position for her to land that submission. She is getting better with her striking, but still, that's not her strong point. And against someone like Marina Rodriguez, she was definitely getting pieced up in that fight. And she did start to slow down throughout the fight, because I think she was getting pieced up too much by Marina Rodriguez, and that was just a little bit too much for her. She is tough though, right? She is very tough. She was definitely eating some shots and didn't get put away, and she has pretty good defense, at least early on, I would say. Throughout that fight, she was able to have some good defense, so she definitely ate some shots and was still able to keep going, and really, like I said, determined for that takedown, but she was slowing down a little bit. For Tisha Torres, coming off that win over Angela Hill, she's very good at fighting, very technical, in and out, bouncing around. She has to defend those takedowns though. That can be a problem if she gets taken down too much or gets controlled on the floor. But she's fought like top level competition. She's fought the best strikers. I mean, she did get taken down by Jessica Andrade though 10 times, so that's a little concerning. I'm not saying Dern's going to take her down 10 times, but obviously with the grappling being probably her avenue to winning this fight, that could be a little bit concerning if she gets into a weird position here. I think obviously on the feet, I think Tisha Torres is going to probably be the better fighter. I think she's going to be able to land the better strikes, land a lot of kicks, a lot of side kicks, a lot of teep kicks, and just kind of bounce around, get in and out, land some good counters. She probably have the speed advantage on the feet. She's constantly moving, so she's not just sitting in one spot. But I do worry if Dern is able to get a hold of her, what's going to happen. So she's going to obviously need to stay away and defend the takedowns. But I think more so just stay away from getting taken down. She has to be in and out, in and out. She can't be just sitting back against the fence or something like that and letting Dern close the distance on her. So this will be a really good fight. Tisha Torres obviously has fought the better competition. She's been in here for a long time. She's fought really good killers. Andrade is really good. Jen Jacek at that time was really good. Zhang Weili obviously was a good fighter. And she's she's lost pretty much by decision pretty much. But the only time she lost by decision, she lost to Rose Namajunas by decision. But she outstruck her in that fight. Did get taken down twice though. But in her entire thing, she's only lost by decision, so that's pretty good to see. I really like that. I think she's definitely capable of getting some pretty good shots off on the feet. I just don't know if she'll be able to, what she's gonna do if she gets taken down or whatnot. But I'm gonna say she's losing a decision here, so I think Dern's really gonna have to beat her up or really control her, and basically hold her down the entire fight. If Dern can't get the submission, she'll have to just keep control, because I think on the feet Torres is going to be trying to land a lot more shots. 144 strikes to Angela Hill's 96, so she's definitely capable of having a good output here. So I'm going to look for Tisha Torres to, as long as she doesn't get taken down and controlled and just submitted, I'm going to look for her to pretty much beat her up on the feet, be in and out, not be there to get hit, not be there to get grabbed, and just have the better volume and point fight away to a decision. So I'm going to go Tisha Torres to defeat Mackenzie Dern. I'll take it a win by a decision. Move on into the third fight on the main card. And we have a welterweight bout between Gilbert Durinho Burns, 20-4, and then Hamzat Borz Chimaev, 10-0. So obviously coming into this fight, Hamzat Chimaev is going to be the favorite. a pretty big favorite as well. And he's actually one of these guys where he has a lot of hype behind him. Undefeated, so he's never really tested that defeat, at least in the fighting in the 10 fights that he's had. But overall, this is a pretty good jump up in competition in comparison to who he's been fighting, right? So he's coming off a win over Li Jingliang, which, I mean, this good dude, I don't think he's been hit once, right? So, yeah, like, okay, he's absorbed 0.08 strikes. I mean, he's barely been hit in the UFC. We saw it against Li Jingliang. He picked him up pretty much, dropped in, got him in the hold, and then pretty much dragged him over, dropped him in front of his corner. Was talking to Dana White the entire time, and then just dominated him from there. And then he was able to get a submission victory in that first round. Just a dominant performance, something that you'd like to see. But we also saw his fight. We've also seen Khamzat Chimaev. So you might think like, oh, this guy, what all he can do is wrestle, right? But then we saw his fight against Gerald Meerschaert. And in that fight, I mean, the speed advantage was there, and the knockout power was there, and the setup was there. He trapped him in the corner of the octagon, basically, and then boom, dropped in a shot, killed him. And we've seen Meerschaert. Meerschaert's no slouch necessarily. He's coming off actually, Meerschaert, since that, he's coming off 3 submission wins. So, yeah, I mean, he's really good. It's just that Chimaev is, a monster. So it's a little concerning because of how fast he's winning these fights. So you might think, okay, so what happens if Burns is able to take him to deep waters? But that being said, Burns, his grappling, he definitely can grapple. I don't think that's going to really come into play here, though. He does have really good nasty hooks in close. I would say more so off of a break is when he can really do his best damage, is when he breaks off from the clinch or something. He's able to land some pretty good shots. But again, like, is he going to tie up with Chimaev right off the bat or something like that? Like, I don't know about that. Burns does have good pressure, and I think that's something, right? Chimaev, we've seen him. He comes out and just gets in your face. So it's going to be interesting to see if Burns is the one backing up, right? And then he's going to have to do something to go forward. Because I think with Chimaev, you really have to hurt this dude early on. You have to do something that makes him go, oh, shit, like, oh, he's not going down, right? So that'd be like defending a takedown or making him question, tagging him early on or something. But I would say more so just defending the takedowns and then kind of getting out of it. So Chimaev's not like, oh, I can't just run through this guy. For Chimaev, from what we've seen, he advances position when he takes you down too. He's not just going to sit on top of you. He's going to try to go for a finish, whether that's through ground and pound or through a submission. He's a scary dude, man. He looks like one of these guys. He picks his shots, speed and precision in his striking, good pressure. The only thing that I've seen really is just, he hasn't been tested, and what happens if he gets dragged into some deep waters. But you have to get him there first, right? So for Burns, he's really going to have to do something early on. He's going to have to hurt him. He's going to not have to get taken down so quickly. And if he does get taken down, this dude needs to be doing something on the ground, like, just elbowing the shit out of him or going for submissions and really showing him, like, hey, you're not going to finish me this fast. Because I think Chimaev, the thing about this guy, he's really confident, right? So that's really his big strength too. On top of all of his skills, dude's really confident. Like, he's kind of like Khabib, right? So he goes in there, takes you down. He starts talking to you, says, he's talking to people outside the ring. He's just like really confident, but he has like all the technique to back it up. So that makes him even more scarier. And this guy's really determined. He talks about his mom, how he wants to give back to his mom, and it's just not a guy that you want to be, questioning his strengths, right? You don't really want to be questioning his heart. He's definitely going to come out here. He's going to try to rip his head off. So he is only 10-0, and Burns has fought the best in the division. But at the same time, I just think Chimaev is going to run through him. And it's going to be one of those fights where either like Chimaev gets caught or something, and it's like, oh no, he's getting rocked, and then Burns goes in there and just submits him or something crazy, or we're just going to see Chimaev and be like, yeah, we knew that was going to happen, right? He just killed him. So I'm going to go Khamzat Chimaev here. I don't think this is like a decision fight. I think if he goes out here, he's going to try to dominate this fight. So I'm going to go Khamzat Chimaev to defeat Gilbert Burns. Unless he runs into a wall and if Burns can give him something different, we'll have to see. But I'm going to go Khamzat Chimaev to defeat Gilbert Burns. I'll take him to win by round 2 KO TKO. And so we move on into the co-main event of the evening. We have a rematch in the bantamweight division between Aljamain Sterling, the champion, 20-3, and then we have Peter Yan coming in with a 16-2 record. with a victory, both coming off a victory. So Peter Yan, obviously it was a DQ against Peter Yan because Yan just kneed him in his head after he got to say, don't knee him in the head. The referee yelled down and then he knees him in the head. But he was I would say he was winning that fight. Like, maybe not early on in that first round, but he just started pulling away. Just a better fighter, at least in that fight. For Peter Yan, he's fought Corey Sandhagen in his last fight. That was a really good fight, unanimous decision victory. It's also good to know that, like, obviously he came back after that and was able to win a fight against top level competition. Oh, again, these guys, whether it's Chimaev, Yan, or Alexander Volkanovski, they all have like one thing in common: is just overall really great fighters in their respective divisions. Just out here, man, like really, just dominant in pretty much every aspect. Kind of like a John Jones back in the day, right? He just was able to beat people up in like everywhere. Even though like his striking really wasn't the best, but he still was able to win his fights. Like it was weird. For Sterling, when you look at their last fight, so we do have a pretty good sample size just because it was 4 rounds, a little bit of 4 rounds, but let's say like a regular fight is 3 rounds. So we got to see a regular fight at least. And I would say early on, Sterling, he's really aggressive. He had a lot of kicks and pressure early on. He's very strong. He did get some takedowns in there, but I will say, well, he got a takedown in there. It was he went 1 for 17 on takedowns, whereas Yan went 7 for 7. So yes, he did go for a lot of takedowns, but he really wasn't able to get him on Yan. For Sterling, I'm not too sure. Maybe he thought he was gonna break him, and that's why he went really aggressive early on. So maybe he takes his time this time and doesn't go out so aggressive. But still, I think when things get a little bit crazy, Jan's able to. He's able to sit back and just kind of take over the fight. We saw that against Corey Sandhagen too. Like, he did get pieced up a little bit by Sandhagen, but he kept going, bro. Like, he keeps going, and like, you really have to take this guy out, right? You can't leave him in there and let him win a decision, because you're probably not. I mean, Yan beat Aldo. We've seen what Aldo's been doing to people. He drastically outstruck him. He beat Jimmy Rivera. He beat John Dodson, Douglas Silva de Andrade, obviously Uriah Faber. Aside from, he was winning that fight against Sterling, so let's count that as a win, really. And then obviously beating Corey Sandhagen is a really good fight as well. And he has good takedowns as well. So, this guy's tough, man. Like, Yan is definitely a tough guy. You have to break this guy. He takes the fights to deep waters. He's got nasty power and close. Pretty good defense against Sterling in their last fight as well. Even when Sterling was starting to tee off on him a little bit, he really wasn't landing anything though and doing any damage. And Yan was able to kind of just eat it and then keep going. And he just he kept going and was kind of beating him up, and then he was taking him down. So it was good to see as far as Yan is concerned, because Sterling, maybe he was relying on, like, I'm going to pressure this guy, I'm going to get in his face, break him. But he didn't break him, right? Yan broke him eventually, and I think Yan would have won that fight. So what happens this time? Maybe Sterling takes his time and doesn't get so crazy early on and tries to, maybe it's a little bit more competitive. But I do think Yan is just going to be better at pretty much everything if the fight goes all 5 rounds, which I think it will, just because both guys are pretty tough. And unless, Jan's able to catch Sterling with something. But maybe early on we see something maybe a little bit different. Maybe it's a little bit slow paced. But overall, I do think that Sterling is just not going to be the better fighter here. I think he really has to do something to, like, disrupt this, like, grind that Jan's going to be able to do, whether it's on the feet or on the ground. Yan just gets into his zone, and when you look at Sterling and you think of him taking people down, but he went 1 for 17 on takedowns, it's just not good. And then you have Yan obviously getting 7 for 7. So yeah, I really think Jan's going to just take this again into deep waters, start beating him up over the course of that 5 rounds in the latter rounds, and then just have just be aggressive even in the latter rounds, and then Sterling's going to start to slow down a little bit. So I'm going to go Peter Yan. I don't know if it's going to be like a unanimous decision and he kills him, but I do think it'll be I think it might be a little bit more competitive. So I'll go Peter Yan to defeat Aljamain Sterling. I'll take him to win by a decision. And move on into the co-main event of the evening, and we have a pretty good matchup. Alexander the Great Volkanovski taking on Chang Sung Jung, the Korean Zombie. 23-1 for the champion Volkanovski, and then 17-6 for Chang Sung Jung. I think this is pretty much one of those fights that they just have to make because, well, obviously Max Holloway got injured or whatever, but that would have been the third time they fought. It was very close fights, but either way, you just start running out of people. So you're like, Chang Sung Jung got a victory, literally got a victory, and let's get him in there, right? The only thing with this fight that bothers me on the side of Chang Sung Jung is he got his ass pretty much significantly beat by Brian Ortega. Just got outstruck in that fight, got pretty beaten up in that fight. And then obviously we've seen Volkanovski. He was able to fend off Brian Ortega multiple submission attempts and beat his ass, come back and drop bombs on him and stay in there. That was a tough fight for Volkanovski, but again, he was still able to pretty much 214 strikes as opposed to Brian Ortega's 88. So yeah, he beat his ass, man, and he beat Max Holloway. We've seen what Max Holloway's done to guys. He's beat Jose Aldo. We've seen what Aldo's done to guys. Chad Mendez back in 2018. Darren Elkins. Yeah, like he's done a lot, right? And he's 23-1 for a reason. Another overall great fighter. He'll take you down. He can beat you up on the ground. He can close the distance in and then start landing bombs on you. He does that pretty well. Good output, good volume. So I don't think Jung's going to be taking him down. I really just don't see that happening. But what I can see happening is Volkanovski, if for some reason, again, on the feet, maybe something crazy happens, which is what Jung's going to have to do. Which, I would say maybe Jung can surprise him with some over-the-top striking. We seen him land some pretty quick power over the top. We saw this last fight against Dan Ige. He was definitely able to land some pretty quick over-top punches and wobble Ige. He's pretty quick when they're in close, that is. But, I just think Jung's going to have to do a lot more than Volkanovski, right? So Jung's going to have to defend the takedowns, look to get into advantageous positions on the ground if he does get taken down, try to reverse, get some submissions in there. He needs to rip him to the body. He has to be aggressive, and he has to go back to the zombie ways, I think. I don't think if he fights this fight technical, it's going to go well for him. I think he has to create that chaos. If Volkanovski's pressuring him too, that's going to cause problems overall. A 5-round fight, that can definitely cause problems because I can see Jung just getting gassed out because of the pressure from Volkanovski, and then at that point, Volkanovski might be able to take him down and start beating him up and get that victory. So I'm not too sure what Jung's going to be able to do here, but if anyone's going to create that chaos, it's going to have to be him. So with that being said, unless he's able to do anything crazy, spinning elbow with 1 second, except, he can't be the one getting hit with the spinning elbow. He has to do something crazy in there, catch him in a bad position, go for a submission. But I just think Volkanovski, man, like if he takes this fight seriously, he's going to take him down. He's going to drown him out, land the heavier shots, and just pressure, and beat his ass. So I'm going to go Alexander Volkanovski. I'm taking a win against Chang Sung Jung. I'll take him to win by round 3 KO TKO. So that'll do it, guys, for my UFC Jacksonville main card predictions for the upcoming event taking place this Saturday. Looking forward to it, going to it. So obviously looking forward to a little bit more. But thank you guys for watching the video. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in the next video.